Okay, good day, everyone. Next up on the session is Ophir Gold. We are joined today by CEO Shawn Westcott and Director Darren Smith. They'll both be speaking to you about the flagship Breccia Gold Project in Idaho. With that, Shawn, Darren, please tell us your story.
Thanks, Joe, for having us. Yes, I'm Shawn Westcott, as mentioned, CEO of Ophir Gold Corp. I also helped put this project together last year. We did a fundamental transaction with a TSX venture vehicle. We financed it with some of the who's who of the gold investing space and some of the gold investors that really understand these low sulfidation systems and the potential they have. My involvement goes back a little bit further. Back in 2018, one of my preferred geological partners that has a prospecting arm stumbled across a project which high grade at surface and a 700,000 ounce historical resource. I think their jaw kind of dropped when they saw it. They showed me, and I was super excited. One of the best projects I've seen on paper. We agreed to that they'd go back and they do a couple years worth of work to validate a bunch of the surface work. And they came back and it was spot on what we're looking for. And they also did some work that really expanded upon our knowledge of this system. So we got really excited and we launched last year under OPHR as a ticker symbol. Mandatory disclosure, please have a look. We will be using some forward-looking statements and relying on some historical information. So important to read the disclosure. Let's jump into the investment highlights. Our project is a drill-ready project that's had past historical production in the 1930s and 40s. And fortunate for us at Ophir, it's also had a lot of modern day exploration in the 1980s. We've seen diamond drilling, we've seen a very large bulk sample, and we've even seen some metallurgical work done. So it's given us a good head start, and it's given us a head start on the drill locations that are ready to go. We believe we have tremendous upside on this project. If our geologists are correct and the system is intact, we could see a major win for shareholders, and we could see a really nice resource and project start developing pretty quickly here. We're in Idaho. We think it's very good place to work. It's very friendly to us, and tons of money have been pouring in the last couple of years. So we think we're in a great space. We've assembled an experienced management team with both technical and financial experience. We think we're attractively valued at this point at $10 million with $2.6 million in the bank. So we think that if any geological success in the coming months, we think we could have a nice re-rating. And we are fully financed for the 2021 drill season coming up and related exploration work. And that should kick off in the spring with the spring and summer drill program and a little bit of other exploration techniques that we'll be deploying shortly. So we should have news on contracts being signed in the short term, on earthworks, on the drillers, as well as an advanced geophysical program. Share structure, just under 50 million shares outstanding. We do have 37 million warrants. The majority of these warrants are at 22 cents. Recent share price before today's slide in the market was 18 cents, putting us, again, $10 million market cap with $2.6 million in the bank. We are in Lemhi County. Lemhi County is a great place to work. It is lightly populated. However, the majority of the population, or a lot of the population, is in the mining services and is very mining friendly. We're part of what's called the Trans-Challis Fault System, fault zone that runs right around here. It's host to many well-known mineral projects, including Revival's Bear Track to the northeast, as well as Freeman Creek's Lemhi project. Just off the map here, also we have Midas's Stibnite. And right next to us, about 300 meters to the north, is US Gold Corp. They have a 313,000 ounce deposit. So lots of great projects in the area, in particular where we are, lots of great projects in our immediate location. Geology very favorable for these projects, and we have similar characteristics. Our Breccia has some of these notables. In terms of infrastructure, we have a road right up to the project, paved road where it then veers on to well-maintained logging roads. So great access for us, and close to the town of Salmon, which is great for having services. Here is a overview of the early history of the project, as well as on the right here. Here is a map of the project. We've recently staked some more claims down to the south here near a Mag High feature. but this gives you an overview of the project boundary. There is two distinct trends. One is the Musgrave-Miden trend to the right here, and this is on trend with that deposit of 313,000 ounces, as well as a former mine that was mined out in the early 1900s, very high grade quartz veins were mined there for thousands and thousands of tons. And then on to what we have is a stronger geologic zone, which we're going to follow up perhaps next year. Our main focus, though, is on this Meadows Fault trend right here, which is host to the Breccia Gold Zone that we're talking about today. And that Breccia Gold Zone is a mineralized zone of outcropping breccia. It runs for 15 to 1800 meters by roughly 20 meters wide at the widest point. And this is what we're really focused on. As you can see by these black diamonds here, these are historical adits that in the 1930s, 1940s, old timers were in there. They were mining 1 ounce material. From Bonanza gold veins. These veins can run a half meter to meter and a half wide, and some of them, like adit 4 here, called the 1 ounce vein, this ran 700 meters into the hillside. So super high grade stuff was mined in the early part of 1900s, and these run perpendicular to our Breccia Gold Zone, which will be our focus. Back into the little bit more modern exploration that occurred on the project. There was a geologist named W.D. Gross from Victoria who fell in love with this project in the 1980s. During that period, he convinced a number of juniors over the years to do a bunch of work on this project. He started in 1982 to 1985. He traced the whole mineralized zone from top to bottom that was outcropping for 1,500 meters. He collected dozens of samples, and he came back with an average grade that returned 0.14 ounces per ton. In grams, that's just under 5 grams, 4.94. So a very good starting point from on surface. He came back a couple years later, 1985, and he drilled 2 diamond holes. You can see on the right here, this is his cross section that he drew. You can see it's very linear. Like I mentioned, it's 1,500 meters long by up to 20 meters wide. And the known depth to this point is around 150 meters, although we'll show later that this could be a lot deeper and get even better as it goes. 2 drill holes drilled. DDH1 was drilled oblique across the deposit, and it intercepted around 200 feet deep and ran for another 100 feet of mineralized zone before it popped out around 120 plus meters. And then the second hole we drilled was for metallurgical purposes. It was said to be mineralized from top to bottom, and obviously ended up in mineralization. Unfortunately, in Idaho, you're not required to file mineral assessments with the government, unlike other jurisdictions around the world. So we had to rely on private libraries for this information. And unfortunately, the appendix has been lost where this drill data was contained. However, so we don't know the actual grade of the holes. However, in the body of his report, he explains that the holes were mineralized with assays consistent with surface samples. And as we see here, it's just under 5 grams. So we're taking that to mean that we're getting 30 plus meters intercepts of just under 5 grams. He came back and he put a resource estimate together based on some percussion holes that were drilled, the diamond holes that were drilled, some trenching, and also the definition of the 1,500 meters strike by 20 meters width by 120 to 150 meters in depth. And he came back with a resource just under 5 grams, and depending on how you look at it, 690,000 to 700,000 ounces. We are cautioning that we put this at best as a conceptual exploration model, and our geologists have not confirmed any of this data to date. But based on the dimensions and the average grade that he was getting, this is what he put together. 2 years later, he came back, and we think that he was doing 2 things. One is he was trying to raise a bunch of money for later mining, but he took a very large bulk sample, which they probably ran and made some good money on. That bulk sample was just under 5,000 tons from the southern part of the Breccia zone. It was a 200 foot by 20 feet at the top, tapering down to 12 feet wide at the base and 10 feet in depth. And that return reportedly averaged a third of an ounce, so 10 to 12 grams an ounce. Pretty impossible to high grade something so large. So we think this is very encouraging as well, and goes to say that, we're sitting on a very high grade at surface system. The reason that this came back higher than the average of surface is because it contained 3 of these high grade bonanza veins. So it was a little bit higher grade than the rest of the surface work groves came back with. What we're essentially looking for here, guys, is we're looking for a low sulfidation epithermal that's had very little erosion. Why are we looking for that? One, because these systems, if intact, they can go a whole lot deeper than the 150 meters that has been observed by groves in the 80s. They can go 400, they can go 600 meters plus in depth. And as typically you can see, as you go deeper, you can get better grade. So if this system's intact, like I said, preservation is key of this system. We could have a whole lot more ounces, and they can get even better at depth than groves estimated. Notable examples of these systems: Hishikari in Japan, 7.7 million ounces. I'm sure everybody knows Fruto del Norte in Ecuador is a low sulfidation type model. And everything we're seeing, our geologists are seeing to date, it gives them the indication that that is where we are, that we're in the uppermost reaches, that we're in lower erosion zone of an epithermal low full sulfidation system. We're seeing breccias up to 20 meters in width, consistent with what you'd be seeing in the uppermost reaches. 2 other diagnostic features that we're seeing are the geochemistry and also the rock textures. The rock textures you can see here, we have sheeted veins off the side and they run parallel. These run up to 2 ounces per ton. And another rock texture that gives a good indication is bladed quartz after calcite replacement texture. You can see this in a few different places in a classic epithermal model. But when you couple that with the geochemistry that's come back, we're seeing strong arsenic, strong antimony, a little bit of silver, which looks like it's putting it up at the top of the system. But the most important for our geologists is the absolute lack of any base metals. We're seeing no copper, we're seeing no zinc, we're seeing no lead. So that gives them a very, very high certainty that we could be at the top of the system here. And again, preservation of the system and keeping it intact is key. And why is that important? Because those holes drilled in the 1980s, just under 5 grams, the bulk tonnage sample 10 to 12 grams, that could just be scratching the surface. The best stuff could yet be to come. And like I said, if we have more depth, then we have that 3 dimensions, the strike, the width, and we have a lot deeper than we think. And fingers crossed that the grade gets better at depth. And also what can happen, guys, is, as Majal's explained, these bonanza veins that you're seeing that are running rhythmically through the breccia, those can all coalesce at depth, and that would be very intriguing if that is the case. At the beginning, when I said we did a bunch of validation work prior to consummating the transaction, 2018, 2019, crews were sent and they traced 500-600 meters of the outcropping. They found the 8 historical adits. They found where they believe the 2 drill holes were drilled, as well as where the bulk sample was taken. They take dozens and dozens of samples. They sampled the bonanza veins, and they're coming back with as high as 2 ounces per ton. They sampled the breccia, and they're getting 10, 20 ounces a ton. On average, probably 1 to 4 for the breccia itself. Breccias in themselves being mineralized with this much gold is quite rare. So our geologists have explained that they think this is multiple systems overlapping, or even multi-episodic, which is very intriguing. As you can see in the table at the bottom here, results from 2018, 2019 are very consistent. 2018 was a little closer to 8 to 9 grams. 2019 was a lot closer to the grove sample of 5 grams. I think it came back with 6 gram average. So very consistent from year to year, very encouraging. Last year, we did an extensive program as well, just to further define what we have here. We put in a soil grid across the whole property. We also ran geophysical mag survey across the whole property, and field crews went in there and they sampled to the north and to the east. And the key here is everywhere we're looking, almost everywhere we're looking, we're finding more and more gold. When the crews looked to the east, they found a proximal and parallel gold bearing zone to our main breccia. And that indicates to them we might have a series of stacked veins occurring here. So very encouraging. And then to the north, sorry, let's go back here. There, as you can see, some of the results, 57 grams from an outcrop and 60 grams from a boulder in this area. So very encouraging. They also found the northern extension. They found a high grade bonanza vein that was not previously discovered, and that ran up to 25 grams per ton. So extension to the east, extension to the north. Soil grid came back with a 4 by 600 meter golden soil anomaly, also high in arsenic and antimony. So very encouraging that we might have a distal gold area here. That's for follow-up in a little bit later. But again, the antimony and arsenic is also a good indication that we are in the uppermost reaches of this system. And the mag survey came back. We're very encouraged by this. As you see in the bottom here in this purple blue area, this is a super mag high feature. And we're very encouraged about looking at this a little bit later. But as you can see, proximal, almost coincident to the epithermal, that outcropping, we're seeing a super well-defined mag low corridor. And this is what is to be expected. These solutions that give rise to the epithermals, they're magnetite destructive. They're converting magnetite into hematite. So this is what you'd expect to see, and we're very encouraged. It's showing a couple of things here also, that as the breccia dips under cover to the south, it shows that this could extend a lot further to the south, just under cover, and similar to the north. Also encouraging that soil anomaly has a maglo feature as well. So very encouraging stuff. Just want to note, we will be announcing shortly a more advanced geophysical technique that will help us get a better imaging in 3D of what we got going on here. And that's to be determined. Drilling. This is probably why everyone's here, is to see when we're going to drill, how much we're going to drill. This is really going to unlock what we have underneath. And, you know, for me, myself, I've been waiting since 2018 to get this done, and it's just right around the corner. So as soon as the snow melts in the spring, we're going to put in a spring program. We're going to do a couple things. We're going to replicate the diamond holes drilled in the 1980s. Very encouraged that we can replicate those results. We're also going to drill underneath the bulk sample, and we believe that if we can get 30, 40 meter intercepts of anything close to what Groves had in either of those samples and drills, we're going to be absolutely excited. I think the market's going to react real well. We're also going to plunge one hole very deep to see the depth of the structure, and then we'll follow up. We'll rush assays to orient the rest of the drilling that's going to happen in the summer. Probably put in 15 to 20 holes, and we're going to have a very exciting and very encouraging drill campaign to come, just around the corner, probably a month or two away, probably 2 months away. So permitted, we're allowed to drill 51 holes from 12 pads. You can see the 12 pads here. And, you know, once we get the summer program going, we'll just keep stepping out, stepping back, drilling to the north and drilling to the south. I'm not sure how much time we have, but management, myself, I'm sure a lot of people on the call have been familiar with me and other projects that I've worked in the past or I still consult with now. Notables now Corp Developments, Excelsior Mining. John Bayer is our chairman. He's been fabulous. He is CEO of Standard Uranium. He is well versed in the capital markets as well as on the technical side. You guys might know Gary.
That's perfect. That's perfect, Shawn. Sorry, just wanted to interrupt.
Yep.
Appreciate the presentation. Looks like there's going to be a lot of excitement here in spring and summer. Just a quick question on slide 10 specifically, an inbound here on some of the rock samples. Questions if these were from the actual property.
100%, yes.
Great. Yeah, no, I figured as
and these are all documented in our 43-101 as well.
Perfect. Maybe one last question then, before we cut here. Just maybe speak quickly, like 20 seconds on the permitting advantages here in Idaho.
Um, well, I don't really think there is any permitting advantages in Idaho. I think that permitting is a challenge like any jurisdiction. Um, for us, we've done the cultural study for the property wide, so we've done a lot of the work for future permitting years. The fact that we have our permit, it took us roughly 2 years to get the permit we have, so that was a major milestone for the company. Um, so in and of itself, that is a huge amount of value that we added.
Absolutely. No, that's perfect. Appreciate it, guys. That's all the time we have. Shawn, Darren, appreciate your time. Stay tuned, everyone, for our next session with Getchell Gold. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.